All right, well, since we're 1 minute past, I'm gonna go ahead and let us get started. I know we have a lot to cover today. I'm really excited to have Kelly, and Ron joining us today. We really appreciate your time and the opportunity to speak with our members and answer some questions that they have. I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys get started. Kelly Murphy with Lighthouse HR Support is gonna go ahead and take it away.
Good morning. Thank you, Kayla, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to meet with you guys today and talk about all of these different laws that are going on. There's a lot to keep track of, and there's a lot to go over. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I am going to share my screen so that you guys can see a little bit of my slides. Our information is going to be an update on COVID-19 and how all of the employer laws and regulations work together or don't work together. First, we're going to go over just briefly about the Colorado Help. Let's not lose sight of that. That is still in effect. And then the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. And then, of course, the CARES Act that we are just now getting used to. Still a lot of questions on that one. So what exactly do they mean? The Colorado Health Emergency Leave with Pay actually started March 11th, and it's only for a specific group of employers. We're going to go through that. It is in effect until at least April 10th, but it can be extended all the way through July 9th by the governor of Colorado. Again, it's only certain industries. Here is the list, and I'm not going to go through every slide. I have given the slide presentation over to Fruita Chamber. I think Selena has posted them on the website, so you can take a look at them there as well. But here are the different industries that are required to follow the Colorado Help. And then what does the Colorado Help actually say? It states that these employers must give 4 days of paid sick leave to their employees after they've exhausted all other of their leaves, vacation, sick, personal, things like that. If the employee has flu-like symptoms, is being tested for COVID, and interestingly, if that test comes back negative, if it comes back that fast, then the leave would stop. It must be paid at regular rate of pay and based on the average hours worked by that employee. Then we move really quickly into the FFCRA. It went into effect April 1. Originally it said April 2nd, but it actually did go in April 1. And it does go to the end of this year. It is for employers that have less than 500 employees, and those employees must have been working for at least 30 days. So if they've worked for 28 days, they would not be available or available to this until they hit that 30 days. You can exclude healthcare professionals and first responders. And this is a specific purpose. It is only extended for the FMLA expansion to care for a child under 18 due to closure of school or child care because of the public health orders. It is up to a 12-week protected leave. And that means that when they do come back, they do need to have that job protected for them, just like an FMLA extension. A lot of our small businesses are not used to an FMLA situation because those under 50 employees are normally not required to follow this law. So when that employee comes back, they must receive the same level of job, the same level of pay, the same shift, all of the same environment as much as possible. So when someone is asking for that FMLA extension for the care of these children, they must be off more than the 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks are not paid for by the FMLA extension, but it might be paid for by the emergency sick pay, and we'll get into that in just a second. But when they do start receiving those wages, it is capped at $200 per day or $10,000 for the whole time that person is being paid. Again, they have to be reinstated. If the employer has less than 25 employees and the job no longer exists, then that is waived. That part is waived for them. They also state that you must keep those records of anybody who has requested this, whether they were approved or denied, for 4 years. Okay. Again, Another part of the FFCRA is the Emergency Paid Leave Act. This is again for employers for less than 500 employees, but it covers everybody who has been hired. If they are on the job day one, it will cover them as well. It's not just the 30 days like the FMLA expansion was. Again, healthcare workers and first responders may be excluded. Full-time employees must receive up to 80 hours of paid sick leave if they qualify for this, and we'll talk about those qualifications in a minute. And your part-time employees will be prorated. So if they work 20 hours a week, then they would have that up to 40 hours a week. And it's based on their average hours for those typical 2-week periods. Compensation is capped at $511 a day, or $51.10 for the whole reason for the questions 1, 2, and 3 above, and it says above, but it's actually supposed to say below. And again, that compensation is packed for the rest. So what exactly can someone apply for the Emergency Paid Sick Act? Here are the reasons. If they are quarantined or isolated, they will receive their full pay for that time. If they are advised by a health care provider to self-quarantine, they will receive that full pay. If they are experiencing the symptoms, again, full pay. If they are caring for someone with those type of criteria, symptoms and things like that, then they're going to receive 2/3 of their pay. So it's not full pay for them, it's 2/3. Or again, caring for that child whose school or care has been impacted and closed by the COVID-19. They're going to get the 2/3 pay. And that's where the FMLA expansion and the emergency paid sick leave overlap. And then we go into what are the payroll credits for employers? So if you are going to be paying your employees this emergency paid sick leave, then you will get a credit dollar for dollar towards your portion of the Social Security taxes that you pay for those employees. The refund is possible. If it exceeds that, then there will be also a credit available for that. Little bit of miscellaneous. This does not preempt the Colorado Help. So if you are one of those required employers for Colorado Help, this is in addition to those 4 days, okay? Does not carry over past December 31st. You must post those posters with your labor posters, just like you do your OSHA or your workers' comp and things like that. So we'll quickly move into the CARE Act. It became effective March 27th. And I know that Kelly J is going to talk about this on the small business side, all those loans that are available. So we're going to quickly go through what is the portion that affects unemployment and the Payroll Protection Program. So first, let's talk about unemployment. When an employee is eligible for state unemployment, the federal government is also going to add $600 a week to that benefit, up to 4 months through July 31st. It is also going to extend those unemployment benefits from 26 weeks, which is the normal period, up to 39 weeks through December 31st again. Normally, when someone applies for unemployment, they have 1 week where benefits will not be paid. The state of Colorado has waived that period as well. And one of the main questions that we get from our employers is, how is this going to affect our premiums? The federal government has set aside the money for these programs and to help state unemployment programs as well. So it is not going to affect your premium costs either. So normally in unemployment compensation world, there are certain individuals that cannot apply. Those would be your self-employed individuals. They would be independent contractors. Those are paid by 1099, so on and so forth. The federal government has extended programs where those individuals can now apply. However, the state of Colorado is not prepared yet through their computer system to be able to capture all of those applications. We were on a phone call yesterday, and it looks like mid-April is when those individuals will be able to file. But it will go retro back to January 27th, and it can last through December 31st, or when you can open your business. Hopefully, we're going to be able to do that by the end of the month, as the governor has hoped. We are hoping with him as well. So there are some certain qualifications for this extended unemployment. They kind of mirror everything else that we've talked about. It has to be diagnosed with COVID, primary caregiver for the child, that type of thing. So those are the extra qualifications for that. Another area for the unemployment enhancements, normally an employee has to be actively looking for a job to remain eligible for unemployment benefits. That requirement is being waived for COVID-19 circumstances. So if you are furloughing your employees, or you are reducing their hours, or you have to lay them off, then excuse me, they don't have to go out and actively look for a job. Hopefully you've been able to furlough them because you anticipate bringing them back on. They still may qualify for that unemployment insurance. So you want to make sure that you're giving that information to your employees as well, so that they can apply. Basic information, the applications for Payroll Protection Program started April 3rd. I'm sure Kelly and you guys have been inundated with applications for a lot of this. It will cover an 8-week period. I'm going to go really fast over this because I know Kelly J is going to cover this as well. The purpose of the Payroll Protection Program is to ease the burden of the unemployment claims. So a lot of people have been asking, can we do both? Can we use the work share program, and can we have them furloughed and still use the PPP? They're different programs and they should not be used together. They should be used to complement each other. So if you do have to furlough, and they do file for unemployment, that is not going to follow through with the Payroll Protection Program. You have to keep your employees fully on the payroll. Doesn't mean that they're working, but you're still paying them 100%. You have to keep your FTEs, your full-time equivalents up, and you have to keep the wages up. So I'm not going to go through a lot of the purposes because I know Kelly's going to go over that as well. So on the slides here are some additional references for these three laws that we've talked about today. There's a lot of information out there. The information that I have given Selena, we've created some summaries of what all of these are and how they interact. So please take the opportunity to take a look at those. And here is my contact information. So just in wrapping up, I want to make sure that you all understand, this is as of yesterday. This information is changing very rapidly. So we have to put a disclaimer out there. This is as much as we know, but it is constantly changing. Also, if you want to write down the email address, we are putting updates out as often as we can. If you would like to receive those updates, there's our contact information.
So I'll charge half for the next hour.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kelly. We really appreciate the information.
All right, so Kayla, are you okay if I dive in?
Yes, please go ahead.
Perfect. So Kelly gave me a really great segue because my focus for today was really to talk about the CARES Act and how that impacts the financial aspect of a lot of these businesses. As Kelly mentioned, my phone is just not stopped ringing, which is great because that means we're saving businesses one phone call at a time. And so I'm okay with that. But there's lots of questions out there and there's a lot of misinformation about the different programs that came through the CARES Act. The CARES Act included 4 loans, 3 grants, and a multiple grouping of tax provisions and other accounting aspects that were also snuck in with this CARES Act, which drastically does impact business in the grand scheme of things. I wanted to talk a lot today about the 4 loans because that's the hot topic, but I also want to wrap in some of the grant aspects of these loans and programs because to me, these loans and grants need to be based, the decision to take them on as a company needs to be not based out of a short-term view. This needs to be part of a long-term planning process. This is part of your business plan. This is part of your financial statements. What we're seeing is a lot of decision being made out of fear. And I also want to say that there's eligibility requirements for each of these programs, and a lot of people are not reading the fine print around those eligibility, and that could result in a lot of debt as we pull through this season. And I don't want to see businesses fail because they have to file bankruptcy later because they didn't account for the debt service costs that these could result in. And so as we're guiding clients through this process and through the different loan opportunities, I really advise people to look at each of these loans and all of the requirements that are affiliated with them. So the first one I do want to address, because it's the hot topic and everybody's talking about it and there's banks closing over it, is the Payroll Protection Program. Kelly kind of already mentioned what the intentionality behind this was, and it's purely to get employers to keep people on their staff. Before April 3rd, Friday of last week, they're all blending these days. Before April 3rd, we were seeing so many layoffs happening and businesses getting so frustrated because they had to tell employees, I'm sorry, we can't handle it. I mean, unemployment had 2 million additional registrations in 4 days just because this act hadn't been in effect yet. And so this came through, and it's a program that's actually done through different lenders through that are SBA approved lenders. That is not done directly through the SBA. So if you go to the SBA website, it's actually going to give you a preferred list of lenders that are doing it. We're very blessed in our county because we actually have 3 options. Granted, one of them decided to stop taking those options as of Monday. So I knew that the funding window would be small just because of how much volume we knew would go through the process. So locally, if you don't have what I first recommend my clients to do is reach out to their current banker. I've always preaching you should have a team of people in your back pocket around your business, a banker, a financial advisor, HR person, an attorney, an accountant. These 5 players should be on your team at all times. And so this is that time to leverage that team. And you're going to reach out to your banker and say, hey, are you an SBA loan lender? Now, there's a lot of banks locally that are not, and so that is okay. There are banks out there, and I don't want to give plugs to any specific banks, but I'm going to mention that like Timberline is accepting applications for people who are not even a client of theirs right now. And they're being very open because their goal is to keep as much money in the Western Slope as possible because that's just a win-win for everybody. A&B is doing very similar behavior. Wells Fargo issued an announcement yesterday that they're no longer accepting applications. Key Bank is no longer accepting sole proprietor and smaller business applications. There's a lot of small other like credit card companies, Chase and Lendio, I'm hearing all sorts of things, but they're starting to put restrictions on who can and cannot apply for these loan opportunities. So I just want to say, like, this is the opportunity to go out and start meeting new bankers and people. And I understand we're under restriction in terms of belly-to-belly meeting, but pick up the phone. People are definitely helping through this process. The PPP loan process is calculated based off of average payroll. And if you've been in a business longer than 2020, they use 2019 as the measurement period for your base calculation for the PPP. Each lender is going to give you a paycheck, average paycheck calculator, and every lender is different with this calculator. So I just want full disclosure, they're all looking a little different, but the intentionality behind it is still the same. The IRS code sections around this state that you'll use your wage calculations. State taxes are allowed. Certain benefit programs are allowed, but not all. So I would really caution you to leverage an accountant or your lender to figure out what is included and what is not included. And you do it month by month by month. They have a list of things that are not included. So that includes federal taxes, so federal unemployment tax, certain sick leave policies, any compensated employee over 100,000, you have to do a proration of that $100,000 in compensation, so it phases out. There's, like I said, lots of moving pieces. It's really, though, in the grand scheme of applications, I've never seen a loan app this easy in my life. It is one page with a whole bunch of initials that you didn't commit any fraud with this payroll calculator attached to it. The only backup tax return type calculations they are requesting is 941 documentation. So this would be your payroll federal tax filing as the backup documentation for it. So you submit that application to the lender. the wait list for these applications has been insane. So a lot of people are like, well, I submitted it. How do I know if I'm getting paid from it or not? I want to let you know, like, I'm seeing clients who had submitted their applications on Tuesday of last week, which is way before the deadline of even opening the application process. And we're just now getting confirmations from those today. So we're seeing a delay, and these bankers are working Saturday, Sunday. I mean, I was on the phone with a banker last night at 8:30. They're not working banker hours that we joke about. They're working very long and hard hours. So I just want to let you know and give you assurance that they're processing loans as quick as possible. So if you haven't heard, don't freak out on the PPP. Now, if you applied early and you haven't received a confirmation, it does not hurt to reach out to your lender to confirm that they've processed your application. If they had an error in the application process, the lenders have been reaching out and telling you, I need X, Y, and Z. Because some people are coming back. If you're a newer business and you don't have a 941 yet, they might need an EFTPS payment confirmation for making your tax payments. There's other things then that we're using as sources to prove that you're a legitimate business and you do have meet the requirements for it. So again, I highly encourage to keep the communication channels open, but also be respectful of the fact that probably millions of people are reaching out to these lenders on a daily basis. And so I just want to give some assurance around that. The thing about these 4 different loans is kind of how they all work together or don't work together. That's the big thing to keep in mind. Because the other big hot topic has been this thing called an EIDL, or an idle loan, or an economic injury and disaster loan, however you want to refer to it. And the PPP and the idle loan are what people are commonly getting misconstrued or misunderstood. Because the PPP does have a forgiveness aspect as long as you meet the eligibility requirements of it, of 75 to 80% of it being payroll costs. You have to ask for the forgiveness after 1 year of no payment in order to get it forgiven and have it turned into grant money. If not, it is a 2-year term loan with a 1% interest rate. So I'm going to be very clear. This does not mean it's free money. I love the fact that people think there's free money, but nothing's ever free. You have to look at all aspects of this. And so again, documentation and those accounting records, as painful sometimes as they are, this is where you get to really leverage and work all of that process for the lending. The EIDL loan that I just referred to is the one that everybody's talking about in regards to the grant aspect of this loan. It is still an SBA-driven loan. You do apply through the SBA directly for this loan. There is a request option on the grant, or on the application, that gives you $10,000 as a grant. You have to, they're going to filter or review the grant request for the free $10,000 grant that they're talking about based off of projections that you put in there for your revenue and cost of goods sold. So like I said, there is a grant aspect, meaning it's not going to be a loan, but this is still a loan application. This is just part 1. So when you go in and you start filling it out, you're actually starting the application process for a true SBA loan. And you can get up to $10 million. Yeah, $10 million, sorry, they're all different thresholds from this specific loan application process. But like I said, the EIDL, the initial app that takes a couple minutes to do now, is rather simple. The loan that was creating the confusion, and I'm sorry, it's $20 million on that particular loan. The other loan that was getting some confusion with this EIDL loan is the SBA 7A loan. And this is what everybody knew about prior to the CARES Act actually coming out that they were referring to. And the 7A loan is a true on SBA loan, meaning you're going to fill out the Form 5, the 4506T, the 413, all these fun forms that talk about personal finance, the collateral you're going to have on, the sales projections, your liability schedules. You get to fill out all of those different aspects. The loan application process takes about 2.5 hours, if not longer, by the time you accumulate everything and submitted this in. You can get up to $10 million with this loan. But again, this is a loan. This is not a grant. You do have to pay it back. The terms are 3.75% for for-profits, 2.75% for nonprofit entities. And I highly suggest you really have done a cash flow analysis to make sure that you're asking for the appropriate lending amount if you don't already have debt on the books, or if you do, and what the intentionality is behind this amount. Because again, the SBA loans, if you get one loan, you can't get the other. So meaning if I apply for the PPP, the EIDL portion gets offset against the PPP. You can't double dip. And so I'm highly encouraging people, if you're looking for lending options, please talk to your accountant, run the numbers, because some of them are more beneficial than others for each scenario. I've done 58 scenarios in the last 3 days, and of the 58 scenarios, not one of them has come out the same. So again, really, really work this through, because this is a long-term decision-making process. The other loan that is available is called an SBA Business Express loan. It's up to $1 million per loan. It has slightly different terms and collateral requirements compared to the SBA 7A loan, but it is an option that is out there and available for you. So again, all of these different loan programs are flowing. We had $80 million worth of loan requests before Friday morning alone in Mesa County. So that tells you the volume that we're seeing in terms of these lending. So don't be alarmed that you're not getting responses right away. I anticipate we're going to see some big changes or big, the money coming, but it's going to take a couple weeks. Like the SBA loan process normally takes months. So full disclosure, that hasn't shortened because we're in this unique season. So just the PPP, because it moves through outside lenders, will move faster. And I also know that the timing that everybody thought it would move in is not realistic. It's moving rather slow. So that's the loan programs. I'm going to real quickly address the grants. So there's a stimulus grant payment that people are talking about, the free money you get as a taxpayer. That's the $1,200 per qualifying taxpayer plus $500 per qualifying child. Stimulus checks that were also part of the CARES Act. I do want to address a couple things about those. One is the $500 per child is for children under the age of 17 and declared as a dependent on your tax form. So they are using the same requirements that the child care tax credit requires.
Hello, Monument Graphics, this is Sean.
So if they are in they're 18 years old, they're in high school, they live in your house, sorry, tough cookies. You do not qualify for the $500 credit. However, you might want to talk to a tax accountant and see if maybe it's beneficial for them to file a tax return if they had a side job, because they could get the credit if you make them eligible that way, because you might get your dependency credit you get on your tax return might be less than the stimulus check. So we're kind of weighing those programs with our different taxpayers that way. To qualify for the $1,200 or the $500 stimulus payments, if you file single on a tax return, you have to make under $75,000. For head of household, it's $112,500. For married filing jointly, it's $150,000. So if you made over that, you do not qualify for the stimulus check. These checks, the one thing that we do want to address or let you know about is they're based off of 2019 taxes. But here's the fun part. They extended taxes to July 15th. So to get the check doesn't mean you have to file a return for 2019. They'll use 2018 numbers. But like I had some clients who sold rental properties in 2018, which bumped their income over that threshold. So it was smarter for them to file their 2019 to be within the threshold to get the stimulus check. So again, all this comes back to a strategy in the best position for you to make sure you're getting the grant money. There is talk and rumors about taxable income versus non-taxable. These are they're an acceleration on your normal tax credits. So just know you won't see as much credit on your 2020 tax return because it's going to offset the taxable income. So again, just be fully aware of how the payment process works. You will get the stimulus checks in the form you normally would get your tax return refund. So if you filed direct deposit before, you'll be expected to see it direct deposit. If you file it by paper or you get a check return, it'll come in the form of a check. I want to let you know this is the IRS processing refunds and payments. This is not going to be a fast process. I would not expect fast cash. They are saying it's going to be one of the slowest refund processes in history. They've shut down the IRS for us accountants can't even call on other returns because of the volume that they're seeing with this. So again, full disclosure about how that particular stimulus payment does come through. And the last thing, again, I just wanted to piggyback on is there's a ton of other provisions that were passed with the CARE Act. It's 1,404 pages of tax code, to be fully transparent, and that includes tax provisions about net operating losses, estimated tax payment changes, business income limitations, qualified improvement property changes, medical device changes, and how all of the different medical billing processes get to work for health insurance. There's provisions around railroads, aircrafts, all of that in the bill. So I just want to let you know, if you're a business and you're wondering how this act affects you, I strongly encourage you to keep engaging your different business team members, as I've mentioned before. I know I have done some analysis on tax returns and realized, hey, I got to go back and amend 2018 because that will benefit them for both stimulus and with the new tax bill. So just be aware that this is a bigger picture project rather than just stimulus payments. And if you have questions, Kayla and Selena have my information, so I'd be happy to support you the best way I can. With that, I'm complete.
Thank you, Kelly. We did have a question come up during your presentation. What about local credit unions? Are they working with businesses on the PPP?
I have yet to have a credit union be an SBA approved lender at this point, but that doesn't mean it doesn't mean they don't exist. I just haven't seen it personally. I know, like, I personally bank at a credit union, and my credit union doesn't do SBA lending. They referred me out to another lending source, because that's the first thing that I called my lender and said, wait, what's the deal? What should I do? And so they'll refer you out to their particular source. And so I would, again, it doesn't matter if they do it or not, they'll tell you who to go to. And if not, you have the choice of some other local banks you can go to as well.
Perfect, thank you. All right, and now we will hand it over to Ron with Legal Shield.
Excellent. You ladies are doing amazing. You covered a lot of my stuff, so that's good. It made it easier for me. I hope everybody realizes how helpful and powerful these two ladies are for getting a hold of for information. They're definitely staying on top of everything that's happening out there. Mine's not going to go into any of the technical stuff. Mine is just basically going to be things that have come across our attorneys' desks and things to be careful of with that and identity theft. I mean, everybody's making decisions right now that are tough and they're life-changing, not just for right now, like it's already been brought up. You know, the decisions you make now need to be long-term also. Be careful right now. So much of fraud out there right now. There's just so many scams going on. Our attorneys have said our intake calls are up over 400%. The identity theft side has spiked unbelievably. I know I've had 3 notices on personal information just in the last couple of weeks of things on the dark web and some other things. So just really, really be careful. Just common sense things, such as make sure you have your will, living will, healthcare power of attorney. There's many different powers of attorney. Make sure that you've got everything in place, because if you can't run your business for some reason or you're quarantined, you really have to have somebody that's in charge of that, even for a household. But business owners, so important. Make sure you have all of your medical docs in place. Be careful on opening text messages and emails. I'm hearing so many things that are completely shutting people's computers and that down. Doesn't matter if you've got fraudware and all of that on your computer. If you've opened something, sometimes that is enough to let it into your computer. And it's quick nowadays, and same with your devices. There's so many scammers out there, professionals, being able to get into your smartphone, so just be careful. When you're answering calls, if you're getting a recording and they're asking you questions, don't answer them. A lot of times they're piecing sentences together so that all of a sudden you find yourself being approved for things that you didn't want to be approved for. I know that my wife even got a call from Excel saying that we were behind on our bill, and she looked at me and I says, no, we're not. And they wanted an account number. They said somebody was on their way to shut the power off. I called Excel. If you call Excel, right on the very front, the recording says, don't pay it, because there is a big scam going on. So a lot of the businesses are really trying to stay on top of this stuff, but you've got to really, really use common sense. If you get a call from a business, don't feel bad about telling them you'll call them back, and call them back at the number you're used to using, not the number that they called you from. We're getting so many questions about the unemployment. A lot of that was answered here today, and they're a better source to go through than me. Keep in mind, I'm not an attorney. I just hear what's going on out in the street. I know that our business owners and the businesses that I work with and referrals have just been absolutely through the roof. Decisions are a lot better, like has been mentioned. You know, you should have a good accountant, a good HR person, attorneys, financial advisors. Use these people. They're experts. You know, I couldn't come into your business and run your business. Let these ladies, let myself answer the questions that we can answer if we can. You know, let's see, looking at my notes, a lot of that's already been covered. I don't want to bore you with it. Be careful managing your finances right now more than ever. Once again, it's a long-term thing. It may not just be a couple of months. It's going to be what's going to be down the road. Watch for any kind of offers you get, email or even hard mail. If you don't want those offers, then shred them. If you throw them out, somebody else might like your offers. And another thing too that I always tell people when I'm doing trainings on identity theft, don't mail from your mailbox and put your red flag up unless it's right about the same time your postal service comes by. People are looking for red flags up because think about what you're usually mailing. It's checks and credit cards and stuff like that. And people are scamming that stuff. Old methods are still very common. Contact your credit card companies, your mortgage companies. If you need help or have questions about how, you know, you might be able to put payments on the back end, they might lower interest rates, all of that type of stuff. You know, on the mortgages, yes, you know, it's going to be nice if you can put it on the back end, but just realize you're going to have additional interest. And if you're a renter, you know, you do your best you can to make those payments because the owner of the property has also still got mortgages too. So be very careful on online shopping. There's so many links and diversions out there anymore. Social media, new friends. I'm sure that with everybody sitting at home, you're finding all kinds of new friends, but also be careful who's trying to friend you. Many times it is a scam type thing. A lot of the liability questions have been coming up through the attorneys. You know, what's my liability with people working at home and workers' comp? Also additional added expenses. Is liability insurance covering it? Is your workers' comp covering off-site? There's so many questions that have really been coming through the attorneys. Keep in mind, we're all in this together. It's new for people. You know, most of us been through 9/11. We've been through the 08, 09 crash, but nobody's been through anything like this. On your smart devices, many of them can be disconnected so that they're not putting out or accepting incoming things. Your TVs are a good example. Your new refrigerators, those are great ways for people to get into your internet. And now with people doing more and more stuff at home, you got more information at home. Somebody that knows what they're doing on tech stuff, if you've got a refrigerator, if you've got even a toaster that's a smart one and you can control it, that's a way to get into your internet. So everybody loves this technology stuff. My wife and I were watching TV a couple nights ago, and we were talking about an old movie, and we couldn't think of the name. And all of a sudden, the TV, and I can't remember if it's Alexa or what it was, said, "I can help you with that." And I'm like, "You've got to be kidding me." Smartphones and Alexa, they're a great way for people to hack into your systems. Check and see if you need to have an off-site work policy. Things are different, regulations are different. There's just so many different things that are unknown. You know, what about OSHA and other regulations? How is that going to affect when somebody's not in your work environment anymore? That stuff's been covered. What expenses are you liable for if you're having somebody work at home? That could be a whole different ball game right there. Some are, some aren't. What if they catch the virus while they're out running errands for your business? There's liabilities. Are you liable for health expenses if they caught it through the workplace? These are just questions that constantly keep coming in with the attorneys. Do you have to keep benefits in place even after the time periods? Liability for any kind of cancellations, or if you close your business with this stuff going on. Workers' comp issues are a big one. Can you ask or require employees to get tested? You know, that's one that's still up in arms, whether you are liable. Talk to an attorney about that. And you can always, you know, email me. text me, and I can put you into contact with different things. We've got a lot of accesses. In fact, the attorneys nationally, our company just put up the most comprehensive coronavirus resource center. You've seen the links on there earlier. Well, we have several thousand attorneys, 7,000 attorneys nationwide that are feeding information in by state, by national, and everything. And so it's a one source website, and I can give that link to anybody that wants to text or email me. Let's see. But I think that's one of the most important things, is just keeping up to date. Like they said earlier, you know, this is as of right now or yesterday. Everything is changing so rapidly. We have teams of attorneys in every state that are keeping absolutely on top of all of this. So it's a huge thing to make sure that you're dealing with somebody. IRS fraud is up through the roof right now. I think that's already been brought up just in the last few weeks. And you don't want to be getting these loans or somebody else getting them in your name. So be very careful there. We also have a free app to offer, and there's a lot of these questions that you can actually ask text them in. And there's all kinds of forms on there that are free. There's no membership required. So that's just a free app that we can give you. There's no requirements, no cost for our resource center. So reach out. I'd be happy to get you that information. With that, I'm done.
Great. Thank you so much, Ron. We appreciate the information. It's
Gotcha.
very helpful. So I just wanted to take some time and open it up if anybody who has joined us has questions, or if there is anything additional that either of the Kellys would like to share with the group.
Hey, Kelly J. One question that we get a lot of is that 75,000 threshold or 150,000 threshold, is that adjusted gross income or is that gross income?
It's AGI, adjusted gross income.
Perfect. Thank you for the clarification. All right, well, if we don't have any questions, I suppose we can go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you all so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time and all of the helpful information. We will have this reposted onto our social media platforms as well as onto the website. So if you know somebody who could benefit from this information, please direct them there. And again, we can send out all of the contact information if you'd like to contact Kelly M, Kelly J, or Ron. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yes,
Have a great day.